Hi there, this is Manish Vijay from PM Pulse, and I would like to bring to you yet another power-packed episode on PM Ninja video series. And in this episode of PM Ninja video series, what we are going to cover, or what I'm going to tell you today, is not only going to help you with PMP certification, ACP, CBAP, all right, PgMP, or even portfolio management, PfMP. It doesn't matter. All of these certificates give a high value to negotiation skills. Now, what happens? Most of the people really don't understand the meaning of the term, the various tactics of negotiations. A lot of people confuse tactics of negotiations with communication skills or what to be careful of during negotiations. That's not what we are talking about. So to know more, keep watching. All right, so when we talk about negotiation skills, the most important concept around negotiations is the tactics that you're going to employ. We never walk into negotiations without any specific plan. And one of the most important elements for planning for negotiations is all about tactics, negotiation tactics. And my intention here is not only to explain to you these tactics in such a manner that you become practically relevant, you become practically effective, but at the same time, you should be able to answer all possible questions that show up in any of these certifications. All right, let's get started. When we talk about negotiation tactics, the most important one that shows up is called good guy, bad guy. Right? Now, this is something that I learned during my anti-terrorist squad day. Sorry, I should not be talking about it. Well, I was part of a squad, not as a commando, but as a civilian delegate, but that's a different part of my life. Coming back to this, most of the interrogations done by seasoned interrogators are done using good guy, bad guy. Now, you might be wondering, why the hell is Manish Vijay talking about interrogation? We have not committed any crime. Well, I'll tell you, this good guy, bad guy tactics in negotiation actually comes from interrogation. It works really effectively if the people who are conducting it are good at it. So one of the participants or one of the interrogators will actually become very aggressive. Tell me what did you do? Why have you done it? I know you've done it. So they actually harass the person, one of the person. And the other person will offer the other person or the alleged, what do you call, criminal with coffee, how you feeling today and stuff like that. So one person is softer in their approach. They tend to become good guy. I think you should answer his question. Otherwise, he's going to get angry. So basically, the one person is developing confidence and the other person is kind of harassing the other person. And therefore, what happens after some time, the bad guy leaves. The aggressive person leaves, and the person who's getting interrogated spills a lot of beans, or basically, confides in the good guy because they feel a little bit of a warmth or safe behind, with the presence of the good guy. A trust kind of gets built for a short period of time, and that's called good guy, bad guy interrogation. But when we apply the same thing in negotiations, professional negotiations, you will find that one of the persons will constantly be from one of the parties. Let's say there are 2 or 3 persons. One of the person or 2 of the persons will constantly keep claiming, hey, what you're charging is not good. You're not the only person that we have to talk to. There are a lot of people I can go to. You are being ridiculous. This is not the kind of price we are looking at. Basically, that is done as a rehearsed plan so that the other person is completely taken off track. And whereas the other participant will say, I think we should listen to him. Let's give them an opportunity. There must be a reason why they have such an expensive proposition. Let's have a look. There might be something that they can do for us. Let's not be so aggressive. So it's kind of a decided kind of a thing, and it works very well. The other person who do not understand this, they actually get perturbed, and they actually develop a momentary trust with the good guy, the guy who's actually showing you a lot more warmth in comparison to the other person, coming from the same party, but being very aggressive. And therefore, they get led by the good guy. And the good guy can eventually strike a great deal. That's called good guy, bad guy. So this is one of the powerful tactics, and it comes from the world of interrogation, right? So now you know. All right. In case you're wondering, what did I do in the anti-terrorist squad? Well, this is something I didn't do. I just saw what happened, but that's it. My job was something else. And the second one, which is very popular, is called deadline. This deadline actually is very effective, taking into account a very important conjecture or understanding that people have, that the last 20% of the time, the last 20 minutes or the last 20% of the total time of the meeting is where the 80% of negotiations are done. So keeping that in mind, there is another premise that anybody who controls time will actually eventually have a better say in the negotiation meeting. And therefore, if one of the parties, they keep on harping about, listen, whatever we have to decide, we have to do it at this time. I have to take a flight, or I have to be somewhere, or I have to go and meet another, party for the same set of negotiations. Basically, you put a pressure of time. And you control time. And therefore, you're forcing the person to actually spill the bean because you have limited time. There is no way you want to give that other person the kind of a feeling that we can come back to it sometime later. That option is removed. And therefore, towards the end of the meeting, you will have a very vibrant discussion, and probably you may actually get it to your benefit. And that's one of the important tactics of negotiations, called deadline. All right. And then this happens a lot in certain parts of the world, like the countries that I come from. So in Asia, in eastern parts of the rest of Asia, we have something known as the missing man. So what is missing man? Missing man is, basically saying something like this, that, if you want something better, right, you need to talk to my supervisor, or if you want something better, I think the other person can help you out much better. But the problem is that person is not available, right? So you simply say, whatever that you're saying, I think it's a good idea. I'm going to look at my accountant, look at it, or one of my technical guys to look at it, but he's not here right now. So basically what you're trying to do here is you're trying to limit the options that are available to the other party and say, okay, I'll probably have to deal with this guy and, succumb to your tactics. And that is basically known as the missing man. I know what you're saying, it is important, and I think my technical guys can look at it and they will have a pretty good understanding about this, and they can actually understand what you're seeing better, but he's not here. It's not going to be here for another couple of weeks. He's on a holiday. That puts a lot of pressure. That's called the missing man. And then there is something known as withdrawal or lack of interest. This is something that you guys do all the time, but you don't recognize it when you are in a professional setup. What you do on a very regular basis, that if you go to a flea market, one of those street side, markets during weekends and other times, right? Sunday markets for that matter, right? And when you actually go there, what do you do? The person shows you a set of handkerchiefs, shows you a so-called alleged antique piece, the one of its kind, right? So, I mean, you know what I'm talking about, right? Some secondhand gramophones with that huge blooper kind of a thing coming out, right? I mean, like, very nice, right? People like to have that stuff in their living room. But what is the tactic that you apply? You simply start walking. Okay. Maybe you're interested. So for example, it shows you a certain number of handkerchiefs. Like, so this is a set of 5 handkerchiefs, pure cotton, Egyptian cotton, my friend. So when you ask him, okay, how much? 15 euros, right? And you don't do anything. You just start walking. Right? And guess what happened? The other person says, my friend, for you, 10 euros. You break my heart. Please, 10 euros for you. Basically, when you actually show withdrawal from the entire thing or a lack of interest, the other person feels, oh man, I'm losing this customer, right? But when you do in a more professional setup, you basically say things like, I'm not interested, or make expressions that, what are we doing here? Or actually try to make an excuse, a very elaborate excuse of, it's not going anywhere. I think there's no point continuing with this meeting or something like that. And that actually puts pressure on people, right? So that's called withdrawal, lack of interest. Now, aren't you surprised that quite a few of these things that you do, but when you do that, you kind of don't recognize it when you do it in a more professional setting, right? So these things have to be planned, right? What is going to be your approach? And then we have the fifth one is called flinching or surprised. A lot of people who are very good at body language and expressions, they also plan this out. And they simply say, the moment you say, okay, what do you have as an offer for me? And you simply say, oh, geez, man, this is, oh, man. I mean, as if something that was not even part of your thinking. It was not even something that you had even considered, that your other guy is way beyond whatever that you thought of, right? That puts the other person in a kind of a back foot. Oh man, I think I overdid it or something. Like, it just puts the other person on a back foot, and they would try to fumble to, realign or reconsider their position. And that's what is known as flinching or surprise, right? Now, this could be done in a very elaborate fashion, but again, when you go to the market and where there is a chance for negotiating the price, you do that all the time. What are you doing? Oh, no, not can't be that expensive. You do those kind of expressions, right? But in a more professional setup, you have to be a little more elaborate and less dramatic, but also making it very clear to the other person is that, okay, wait a second, this is way beyond. Oh, okay. I have to get back to you. This is something that I could never even think of something so expensive, right? So we've not even considered. So this is what happens. And basically you're forcing the other person to say, okay, what figure did you have in mind? And you know that half the battle has been won. So that's basically what is known as negotiation tactics. And we just finished flinching or surprise. All right, and then comes limited authority or higher authority. Now, this one is practiced a lot in certain cultures, of course. And I found that in US quite a bit, right? So limited authority, higher authority. This happens a lot across US, Canada even. What they do is when you start talking, they actually say, the best I can do is accommodate you to this much. Say, I can, pump up my price for 10% just to accommodate you. You seem to be very, competent party, but that's the best I can do. If you want to talk to somebody really, you want to get a better break or a better deal, you need to talk to my boss. Right? And that's when they see that, okay, so this guy has been, very, close towards us. We've had the maximum discussions with him. What if the senior manager does not like us? So you kind of agree to it. Sometimes what we also do is we talk about limited authority. I can only do this much. Right? But if you want something better, you need to talk to my higher up. They mix it with something known as the missing man. Right? All right, let's say I would like to talk to your senior because you have limited authority. You say, well, he's on a holiday in Jamaica. I mean, I'm not saying literally Jamaica, just saying anywhere, like he's not available. Right? So basically you're putting the pressure on the other person. So you can even have combinations of this, but you need to be very careful what you're good at, what's your personality type, and what are the parameters on which the other party can be actually pressured on. So you need to actually mix and match. And this is what needs to be planned. All right. The seventh one is called silence. This is something the Japanese do. Like if you ask me culturally, now this is a little bit of generalization, but sometimes you have to. If you ask me which culture in general or the group of people which are the best in negotiations, I can tell you, having visited 72 countries and nearly 45 of them for business purposes, I can tell you for sure that the best people that I have come across, you could differ, which is fine, are Japanese. And they used the last two, which I'm going to tell you, silence. They use silence in a very uncomfortable fashion. Yes, I'm not kidding. Gone are those terms when you say silence is golden. No, it's golden for the Japanese, right? But it's not for the people who are on the other side of the table. It's very uncomfortable. I spent, and I suffered, right? I saw a lot of other people, having a similar fate. And we talk about it, we explained to them, and we hoped that they would really go gaga. They just kept a straight face. They kept on looking at us as if they were expecting us to say something more. It was so uncomfortable. We had ended with a crescendo, right? And we thought we'll get some kind of an applause or recognition. No expressions. Silence. Looking straight at us, silence. Literally, silence. 10 seconds, 15 seconds, close to a half a minute. And we had to break the silence. And then we said, oh, what's going on? And they're just silent. And they say, I thought, Manish-san, that you would say something more. Are you finished? It takes you completely off the track. That means, man, whatever I did was not good enough. Or maybe they have heard something even better proposal from somewhere else, some other party. And that actually puts me in a back stance. And that means I'm suddenly vulnerable. And I play to the hands, right? I've done that, okay? Now I'm a lot wiser, right? So these are amazing tactics, right? These are things that you could use. The other one, the last one we are going to discuss is don't understand. I don't understand. Manish-san, wakarimasen. Means I don't understand, right? This is a very nice method that I understood in Japan. It's getting popular in the rest of the world as well, but nobody does it better the way Japanese do it. The last two, silence and I don't understand. In fact, most of the time I've seen when they get into really professional discussions, they actually mix the last two. And that is long silence, really uncomfortably long silence, and then wakarimasen? I don't understand. I didn't know what you're talking about, right? And that you really puts you in a shock. Oh, which part you didn't understand? Which is it this? Which is that? Which is this? Which is that? And sometimes they'll ask you to repeat the whole thing. So you spend another hour doing that. And guess what? Again, silence. I don't understand. You'll be frustrated enough to say, okay, what is it that you're looking for? And that's when you play in the other person's game. So you can see there are amazing negotiation stories all around the planet, but most of the stories are from within these 8 tactics that I've talked about. Now, lately, PMP questions are also talking about negotiation tactics. They give you a scenario and then ask you, all right, what tactics that was utilized? So now you know exactly what to answer. In PgMP, you are expected to do negotiations. In PfMP, there are topics and questions on negotiations, CBAP, for sure, because as a business analyst, you need to negotiate. And therefore, these will really help you. And of course, in the real world, use it as much as you can. All right, this is Manish Vijay from PM Pulse, bringing to you yet another power-packed episode of PM Ninja video series for your benefit. And if you like it, please go ahead and share it, leave a thumbs up mark, leave some comments if you have some suggestions, another tactic that you've come about or know about or have utilized, what have your experiences been, negotiations, or seen some negotiation guru in action. Please do comment so that I can interact with you, right? And go ahead and share. The more, the merrier. Perfect? Right. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. See you another time.